All right, we are back. Morse Code Podcast, episode 41, I believe. So,
and they said it wouldn't last.
And that's what they said, the Dirk Nowitzki episode. Unless, before we get into our guest, Trey, I'm drawing a blank on an NFL 41.
Well, we
41.
go old school. Isn't Alvin Kamara 41?
Oh, great call. Yes.
Kamara's 41.
Excellent.
Or we go old school. We go old school Dallas Cowboys. Charlie Waters, safety from the 70s. He was a 41.
To go Alvin Kamara.
Was Tom Matty a 41? I'm not sure. No, Matty was 41.
I was thinking like a linebacker or something. Is Kiko Alonso in the 40s?
He's 44, I think. I think he's 44.
Anyway, I digress. We're back.
I say we stay on that topic for a while.
Yeah.
Kiko Alonso's greatest numbers.
Hits? Yeah.
Well, as you can see, Soapy and I are joined by Trey Wingo. You guys all know him. Soapy, you were the one who kind of hooked this up, so why don't you kind of kick us off here?
Yeah, this is kind of funny because every time I introduce the guest typically, and I feel like I'm like a public address announcer or something. So actually this time I am going to introduce you as if you are coming out in the starting lineup. So
okay.
I'm North Carolina.
Yeah, standing 6'3" from Greenwich, Connecticut. He went to Baylor University.
Look at this.
Trey Wingo.
There you go. Research, and the internet is your friend. Absolutely. Yes. Well done.
That's right. I'm actually going to be editing your Wikipedia page after this, so
as we
make sure that you stay friendly with us, or else I'm going to have some.
Yeah.
But
no, Trey, thank you very much.
Yeah, happy to be with you guys.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
I'm assuming we are Patriots fans, judging by the hat.
How could you tell? Yeah.
Well,
Patriots?
Patriots.
Yeah, we're diehard New England guys. We talk a lot of Celtics, a lot of Patriots, a lot of BS, a lot of everything. But let's get right into it, man. Soapy, why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, so first, 10 straight political questions with Trey.
Excellent.
Yeah, Trey, obviously you've had like a super successful long career in, sports media. So honestly, something that we ask everyone is just kind of, is this something that you envisioned? Like, did you go to school for this, by the way, at Baylor, or like, how did you end up where you are?
Wow. There's a lot to get through there.
Loaded question, they call it in the biz.
Yeah. To answer the last part of it, yes, I did go to school with the idea of getting into this business. Mm-hmm. But when I got to school, I had way too much fun. And I changed my major like 5 times. And then I got a job as an account executive for a PR firm. And I went into the office every day and hated it, just hated it. So I moved back into my parents' basement, got a job at NBC as a page, which is the guy that gives the guided tours of the buildings in the blue blazer, like the show 30 Rock. Yeah. I did that. And by the way, one of the guys that I was a page with in the 80s, he's now the CFO of the Houston Rockets. Tad Brown is his name. So, yeah, it was funny.
I thought you were going to say he was Tracy Morgan from 30 Rock.
No.
That'd have been an ironic twist.
A little later.
It's funny because both of those guys are going to be guests very soon.
You guys are lining them up. This is really good.
Right.
So then I got my first TV job in Binghamton, New York. Was there for a couple of years. Then I got a job in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Then I was in St. Louis for 6 years, and it's been 23 years here now. So
yeah. So where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
I was born in New York City.
Okay.
And grew up in Greenwich, just outside the city. Yeah.
Perfect. Nice. So how did ESPN come into the picture?
Well, that was interesting because I was working in St. Louis. I'd just been there like less than a year. Mm-hmm. And there was a note on my desk that said, call this number and talk to this guy. And it was a 203 area code. And back in the day, 203 was the entire state of Connecticut. Now we have 860 and whatever, because we have more people, I guess, or just too many phones. But I'm dialing the number. I'm like, why do I know this guy's name? And I realized it was the talent recruiter at ESPN. And I had not sent him a tape. Someone else had sent him a tape. And so we started having conversations, and I was under contract at that time, so we couldn't work it out, but they called a few years later, and I came up and did a demo tape, and that was it.
Nice. What was the demo? Was it like a SportsCenter anchor type of thing?
It was like a 5 minutes. Yeah. We went in, we looked over the highlights, wrote the scripts, I did all that kind of stuff. And they, the funny thing was at the time, they said, okay, we're going to start at noon. Well, I was on the set at like 11:50, ready to go, whatever it was. We didn't start that demo until like 12:45, 12:50. And I'm sitting there on the set for almost an hour. And I'm like, is this what you
Momentum
guys do to
killer.
sweat people out? I mean, is this a stress? This is like a stress question in a job interview. I mean, so it took a while.
That's hilarious.
That's the thing I remember most about that is it took forever for that thing to get started because I was ready to go, man.
They just come out at like 11:30. All right, Trey, we've seen enough.
Thanks. We're done.
Now you've handled the stress test.
Yeah.
We'll
do you have to
you.
freestyle anything? Do you have to freestyle anything? Like, do they have you not ad lib, but kind of improvise and see how you are on the spot?
No, that actually would have been a good thing to do. Actually,
yeah,
that would have been interesting. But no, we didn't do that.
It's funny because I remember, not to go too off topic, but you'll probably remember this, Trey. There used to be this show on ESPN, and I loved it. It was like it was basically like a reality show, like to be a SportsCenter anchor.
Yeah, who wants to be a SportsCenter anchor? Absolutely.
That sounds about right. That show was
like
awesome. Yeah, and one of the best parts was like those off, like, all right, you're on, you're live, no script, and they're like hilarious stuff came from that. But yeah, go ahead.
Can I tell you something? Yeah. Most of us at ESPN at that time hated that show. Because like, really, my job's a game show prize.
Exactly.
Now? I can understand that.
But I will tell you this: the first winner of Who Wants to Be a SportsCenter was a guy named Mike Hall, and he got a job, was working at ESPNU. One of the greatest guys you'll ever meet. Super nice guy. Still a friend of mine. He works for the Big Ten Network now. But he was the first one, and they nailed it. He was really good, and he's still really good at his job. So I was happy that he won it. But the whole thing was like, really, you're just gonna make this a prize for someone?
I wouldn't appreciate that.
We've been trying to do this for a while, you know.
I wouldn't appreciate that for my job. I know that.
Yeah, no, that is an interesting angle. I was curious too to see. It's like. And when was that? Was that like during like the whole like American Idol, when these things really started getting popular? Yeah.
That's exactly why they did it. Yeah.
I believe it.
It had to be early to mid 2000s. I want to say like 03 to 05, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. That's when that was.
That was hilarious.
Josh Elliott was another one of the winners, right?
No, Josh came over from Sports Illustrated. He was a writer at SI. There was another guy named David Holmes who worked with us for a while. And then they did it for analysts, and I can't remember who the analysts were that won it. But the two that came over that I remember were Mike, obviously, and I think David Holmes was the second-year winner.
It'd be funny if they started doing that for some like really niche ESPN employees, like who wants to be the next like Sal Palantonio or Roger Cossack or like Dr. James Andrews.
Look at you with the names Roger Cossack. Wow. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, just throwing out like very niche characters. So yeah. Let me ask you this. So that was obviously in 97. Dan just dropped off. He'll be back in a sec. I guess he's got something more important. I don't know.
Probably.
You've done so much and you've had so many roles there. What was it like to cover? Did you cover Super Bowl week? You've done that, right?
Yeah, I've done it 19 years.
Okay, so what are the accommodations like when like between the hotel and the food? Like, yeah, we're gonna ask you some like off-topic questions like that.
Well, I mean, the hotel's a hotel, you know. I mean, it's a room with a bed, and it's normally in a pretty decent part of town, and
okay,
you know, like. Some of the best setups. It's funny you say that. Like for us, when we're going to a Super Bowl city, all we care about are the logistics, right? Like where's the hotel, where's the set, and where's the office? Like that's the thing that matters most to me. Like I don't care about all the other stuff because I'm going to be working. I'm not doing that stuff anyway. Mm-hmm. Like when the Super Bowl was in Detroit, you know, everyone's like, "Oh, I hated the Super Bowls in Detroit." That Super Bowl in Detroit was one of the best weeks ever because there was this giant building in downtown Detroit called the Renaissance Center. And it was this massive indoor facility. Well, that's where our set was. That's where our office was. And our hotel was also in the Ren Center. If I didn't want to, I never had to go outside in Detroit in January, February. That was a huge win, you know? That was great. And I'll tell you, the Super Bowls in Miami, they can be brutal because everyone wants to set up on South Beach. Yeah. Well, everyone wants to set up on South Beach, right? And the stadium is way up the road, 30, 40 miles away. the logistics of getting everything in place in Miami is horrendous because there's traffic. It's impossible to get places. Any city that has like a little downtown condensed area makes for the best Super Bowl week. One of the other great Super Bowls was Super Bowl 46 in Indianapolis. Now, granted, we caught a break with the weather, but they roped off the downtown, and our set was there, our studio was there, and it was really close, and you could just walk everywhere. The Super Bowl in Dallas, Super Bowl 45 the previous year, was a nightmare because it snowed and ice stormed, and Dallas was not prepared for that. But, Dallas is so spread out. Like, our setup was in Fort Worth. The stadium was in Arlington. There was stuff going on in Dallas. Those are 40, 50 miles apart. And just getting around. Arizona is the same way. The stadium is in Glendale. The setup is in Scottsdale. And, you're driving 30 miles every way to get part of it. So any place that has that's why everyone loves going to a sporting event in New Orleans. Everything is right downtown. It's
Really?
right there. It makes it easy. Any place that has like a really good central location, perfect. Home run.
I heard if you have beads in New Orleans, I don't know, you get some sort of cool perk. That's what I've heard.
That's what people tell me.
Well, so the reason I brought up the question is because I remember the year that the Super Bowl was in Minnesota. Was that 2018?
It was Super Bowl 52. It was the year the Eagles won.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people, at least in local Boston media, were complaining about like, oh my God, we got to go to Minnesota. Like, there's nothing to do. We're in, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a great hotel. But what sparked my question was I saw that you had a post from earlier this year. I was trolling through your Instagram and I saw like you had a picture of a PB&J sandwich. So I was like, I wonder.
Yeah, that's a tradition that started the first Super Bowl I ever covered for ESPN. Just peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all week, man. Like they'd set up a kitchen outside the newsroom, and I just go in there and house PBJs, and for whatever reason it became a thing. Like they'd make sure they had the toaster and the peanut butter, and I live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches the entire week. It was great.
Well, that actually kind of gets me into another question. What is the ESPN cafe like?
The best way it's obviously very different now because of COVID, but that cafeteria opened in 2000. And there was a guy that has been at ESPN since day one. And before that cafeteria opened, like there would be a sandwich guy that would roll through on a cart with like wraps. And that was the only option you had. When that first cafeteria opened in 2000, he looked at me and said, "This is the single greatest day in the history of ESPN," because that cafe is amazing. Now, obviously, it's very different now. There's not many people on campus. We just don't, because of restrictions. But that thing is open 24 hours a day, basically, and it has a pizza oven. It has a breakfast area. It has a hot food area. It has a salad bar. It has cold sandwiches. Anything you could possibly imagine, they have it at the ESPN Cafe. It is incredible.
How good is the I assume the commercials are based on like reality. How good is the curry chicken for Steph Curry?
That was actually shot in the LA studios.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was shot in the LA studios.
Do you research?
So that's where they keep the curry.
Jesus.
Sure. We've never had curry at the ESPN Crystal Cafe.
So
I think we have curry.
That's actually an interesting point. Yeah. Let's quickly transition to this on a similar note. So that's where, and again, sorry for I got kicked off a couple minutes ago. Hopefully Sophie just drove the show right into the ground. The cafeteria became famous for us non-ESPN employees through some of those commercials. Like there's the classic Arnold Palmer one, which is terrific. The one Sophie just mentioned. I think you have one of the more underrated This Is SportsCenter commercials of all time as well with Jerry Stackhouse. That's one of it. That seems like an older one too. So any good stories from either filming yours or just being around those? And B, when did those start anyway? I'm trying to think.
I think they started in like the mid 90s. And it just became an amazing.
Wow, that old?
Yeah, it became an amazing campaign.
The
Stackhouse one was great because they shot it at my desk.
Oh, nice.
And if you see like when they zoom in on Stackhouse laughing at my name, you'll see pictures behind him. And those are pictures of my kids. So the coolest thing for me was that my kids got in.
Hey, Dad, we're on TV.
Five and 3 years old or whatever. They got on TV, which was pretty cool. But, it's funny. Cool. They came to me and said, "Hey, I have a question for you. How sensitive are you about your name?" I'm like, "It's Trey bleeping Wingo. I mean, I've dealt with this my entire life, so have at it, man. It's not a thing." One of the more fun ones, though, we did a thing the year the Devils won the Stanley Cup for the first time. Ken Danico came through, and John Anderson was walking with him. So it's been a big year for the state of New Jersey. We won the cup. Something else happened. I think somebody else made it to the Rutgers. I can't remember what it was. And the kicker was, and John Bon Jovi's new album is out, Crush. And we had Bon Jovi and the band in the newsroom playing It's My Life in the actual ESPN newsroom. And if you find the footage of that one, there's footage of me with a different hair color dancing around in the background to It's My Life next with Carl Ravitch and Chris McKendry. It was pretty funny. That was a pretty fun day. That's
a solid day at the office.
Yeah.
I'd say. What are some of I mean, I don't know if I feel like some people would be on one end or the other of this question, like, "Oh, I'm so sick of these damn things." But you seem like a pretty chill guy. What were some of your other favorite This Is SportsCenter commercials? Either like filming at the time, not you, just being around the filming at the time, or seeing them later on like 11 o'clock SportsCenter when you get home that you thought were pretty good.
One of my favorite ones was just one of the stupidest ones that happened before I got here. Actually, it was Carl Ravitch and Georges Muresan. Do you remember Georges Muresan, the 7'8" basketball player?
Oh yes, yeah. The guy from My Giant, right?
Yeah,
I know from that stupid ass.
That's exactly right. You're right. And Kenny Mayne walks up and says, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And they say, "We're dancing." He goes, "Can I join?" He goes, "Yeah." And it's just the three of them dancing, which makes no sense whatsoever. It's Kenny Mayne, Carl Ravitch, and a 7'8" NBA player just dancing.
Yeah, those are the best ones. I mean, I'm trying to think, Soapy. Some of like I said, we're New England guys, so the Big Papi one was great in the Yankees hat with Wally. An underrated one was the one with the big three in the Celtics. I think they're going to Dan Patrick. Who are they? Do you remember?
That was SVP.
SVP. Okay, going over like nicknames and stuff.
Yeah, the best SVP one of all time, in my opinion, was the one when LeBron sat down and his chair was busted.
Yeah,
and it's an office chair, and he goes to the next cubicle, and Scott Van Pelt's there with the throne and the cape and everything, and they said, "Did you switch chairs?" No, this is my chair. That was very good.
That was classic.
Very good.
Yeah, good call.
Very good recreation. And LeBron's like, "Okay,
hope you find your chair, LeBron."
And the best parts, it's just like, and the best part about those it's like a parody on just typical office life. That I've done that multiple times in my career. Just sit down. This isn't my damn chair.
Exactly right.
Squeak like this.
Exactly. There's the one where Evander Holyfield was coming to beat up Charlie Steiner because he said he was the 8th best boxer in the state of Georgia. That was also a good one.
That's interesting. So you know what? Actually, on a similar note, so guys, you've been there long enough where you've worked with guys like SVP, Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, who have moved on to other ventures or doing their own podcasts, radio shows, stuff like that. Were there any guys, even those guys included back in the day, where you were like, I could see these guys carrying their own show, or you know what I mean, having a bigger role than not just the SportsCenter anchor, but the SportsCenter anchor at the time?
Honestly, I none of those guys surprised me with what they've done. But I just didn't think of it that way. Like my thing was, I'm just going to worry about what I'm doing. I mean, so I never. I mean, Kenny's crazy in the best possible way. Mm-hmm. So nothing he does surprises me at all. But all those guys, if you're successful here, you can be successful somewhere else. So the skill set translates. It's not like it's Bristol coded. It's like it only works in a 23-mile radius. If you can do that, you can do almost anything. So none of that surprised me. I just didn't think of it that way. I didn't process it that way.
Good point. You're so in the moment, like you said. It's just these are the guys I work with.
Right.
Congratulations. Here we go. Go ahead, Soap.
I was just gonna ask, because you mentioned Bristol and having grown up in Greenwich, as someone who lives in the state of Connecticut, Have you ever been torn about like who you were rooting for as a kid and now?
No, because I grew up right outside New York City, right? So like Greenwich is literally the first town over the border. My dad took the train into Manhattan for work for 26 years. So, you know, you're right. Where we are now, it's very much a 50-50 split. Like it's half Red Sox, Patriots, half Yankees, Giants, Jets, whatever. But where I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, that is New York country. That is, I grew up a huge Yankees fan, although I have to confess I was a Dallas Cowboys fan in football because my family's originally from Texas. Long story short, we moved overseas for a few years for my dad's job. We came back. One of the first TV games I ever saw was a Monday night game with the Dallas Cowboys, star in the helmet, parents from Texas. Oh, this is great. And they started winning all the time, so that also helped. But yeah, it's not split around. It's not split from where I am, but around here, it's an absolutely 50-50 split.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. I guess that's a fair answer. I'll take it.
Thank you.
The swing state.
That's awfully generous of you, Sophie.
No, I guess getting back to, you know, some of the guys that you worked with a couple months ago, it was the anniversary of Stuart Scott's passing. What are some, obviously very sad and such an iconic guy. Like he feels like, I'm sure Dan agrees, part of our childhood. Anyone who grew up in the 90s is like, if you watch SportsCenter, it's, you know, it was kind of him and Dan Patrick as maybe you consider the pantheon. But what are some of your favorite memories of working with him?
I'll tell you my favorite memory, and this is the one that matters the most to me. You know, we used to do this thing called ESPN The Weekend, where we go down to Orlando. We do all the shows from Disney World for 3 or 4 days in a row. For whatever reason, Stuart and I got down there early, and he was like, hey, we should play some golf. I'm like, yeah, let's go play golf. So it was just the two of us, and we went out and played at one of the good courses at Disney. And as fate would have it, we had a few cocktails, and we just had the best bleeping time. Like, we had a blast. We were dying laughing the entire time at how bad our golf game was, and the drinking didn't make it better. So we were just having a good old time, yakking it up, had a blast. And then we left and we did the shows. We got back and I passed him in the halls at Bristol. And he's like, hey, man, that was really fun. Let's do that again. I'm like, hell yeah, we should do that again. That was great. And then the season started, football season. We sort of drifted. And then that year he got sick. Yeah. And I always tell this when people ask me about Stuart. To this day, I would do anything to have that second round of golf with him the way we did it at Disney that day. And the reason I bring up that story is to remind everyone that life is short and nothing's guaranteed. And I would have loved to have had another day on the golf course with Stuart, because we weren't like best friends. We were friends, but we weren't best friends. It's not like I worked with him all the time and, you know, we didn't hang, but we were friendly, you know? Yeah. And it was such a great day on the golf course. And it was the ability to do it again was taken away from us before we even knew that it was going to be taken away from us. So I guess the two of you are friends and have been friends for a while. Cherish it, you know, because you never know when life's going to throw you a curveball. And that was certainly one that we all had to deal with here. And so that was just one of my favorite memories of Stuart. We just acting like idiots and just laughing at how bad we were at the game of golf that we loved so much. And we were so ready to do it again. And then shit got in the way. Yeah. Don't let the shit get in the way is what I would say.
Well said. Were you at that? Were you at the ESPYs that year when he had his speech?
No, I was actually at the British Open that year.
Oh, yeah.
I was working that was the hard part. Like,
right.
The ESPYs always went on. Like, if you were working the British Open, and I did for 5 years. It was always the same time as the ESPYs. So I never got there. I didn't get. To I woke up the next day and heard about it. Yeah.
No, that was obviously a pretty moving speech and pretty powerful speech, really. I think is the best way to put it. But to your point, man, it's just it's I think without knowing you too well, I think we can all agree 2020 has been
sucks.
That's a good way to put it. It stunk.
It's been a suck fest.
Yeah. But it's almost like, you know, it started with Kobe and then who else? And then, you know, the Chadwick Boseman most recently. And it's just like, to your point, Trey, it's like you can't wait till it's too late. Because then it's too late. You know
take advantage. The only person that's winning or beating 2020, and knock on wood, I hope I don't jinx him. Is Patrick Mahomes. Okay.
No shit.
Okay. Look at how he
and
started
his fiance.
2020. Yeah, well, yeah, byproduct. Look at how he started his 2020. Three straight playoff games in which they trailed by double digits, and he went on to win them all and become the Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he was having the worst game of his career in the Super Bowl until he wasn't.
Yeah.
Until it was winning time. They're like, F this, it's time to win.
Yeah.
I won't even look at his LinkedIn anymore, because when I compare it to mine, it's just very
depressing.
Yeah.
His recent updates.
You speak for 99% of the human race then. So then he does that. Then he gets a $500 million contract, and just for fun, he's now a part owner of the Kansas City Royals. I mean, he's the only guy.
Casually,
he's the only guy that is telling 2020 to suck it, right? Everyone else, it's coming for the rest of us, but it's not coming for Patrick.
Yeah, very good point. I even remember. I know you mentioned like all three of those games. I remember the Texans games vividly.
They were down 24-0.
I had it on.
They scored touchdowns on 8 straight drives. Because I remember does that, man.
I had my son that day, my 1-year-old, and I'm like, all right, like I'll give him this stupid shit he likes to play with. I'll watch the game. It's 24-0. I was like, all right, let's do something. Let's interact. And I'm checking my phone 24/7 or 24/7, 14:10. All right, we'll play with this later. Daddy's got. I actually got to pay attention to this damn thing. It was wild.
I think it was 7. I think it was 7 straight touchdown drives, which had never happened in playoff history.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this. They were down 24 and they won by 20 something.
Yeah, and they blew them out.
It just doesn't happen. I remember texting with some of the people at work, like, this is insane. The only thing
watching this?
Yeah, the only thing I compared to was that great Bills-Oilers wild card playoff game a few years ago was 41-38. I mean, they were down 35-7, I think, to start of the second half, and they came back to win that game.
Yeah,
but it was Patrick Mahomes unleashed, and he was like, and then Bill O'Brien certainly didn't help the cause, but the fake punt. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But yeah, that was it was a remarkable run, and like again for the Super Bowl, he played terrible. Those 2 interceptions in the Super Bowl were his first ever postseason interceptions, and it unraveled so quickly. And then, 3rd and 17, he's the one that comes up with the play that put him back on the map, the Wasp. And to that date, we did the metrics. That was the longest air throw of the season because he took like a 12-step drop, not because that was the design, but the whole point was the pass rush of the 49ers was getting to him.
Yeah.
So when he said, do we have time to run Wasp? It was, will the offensive line hold up against this pass rush to allow me to throw it? It was 65 air yards that he threw it off his back foot. Nobody else is making that throw. Nobody. I'm sorry.
No. Hell no. How old is Patrick Mahomes now? 23, 24?
25.
That's depressing.
Yeah, he's in his twilight years.
Get used to it. It's not going away.
So that's actually a good transition. So let's keep this happy. Let's move on to the positive. So current NFL, it's going to be unlike anything we've seen in recent time, I'm sure. And we were talking about this on an episode earlier. It's like, I'm very impressed with what the NBA's done. I think they knocked the NBA return out of the park.
Correct.
NHL, they did the bubble thing as well. Baseball got off to a somewhat rocky start, but they've been pretty consistent lately, right? There's not been much COVID news.
It's been okay.
Okay. Football, I'm just going to ask you straight up. What do you think? I mean, how do you think COVID plays a role in the football season, just from a player's health standpoint?
Yeah, 2 things. Number one, I think that the last 3 weeks were very important because, when they started going to training camp, they're all wearing those apps that say, you're inside 6 feet, get away from me. Well, that's great, but, blocking and tackling. So,
wait, is that real? They did something?
They had apps on there to tell them you're too close. You need to get away, social distance. So all that stuff.
Wow.
But when they put the pads on 3 weeks ago and they started practicing and hitting, and there wasn't a huge spike in cases, that was a massive win for the NFL.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, understand each one of those teams is pretty much bubbled at that point, right? I mean, it's not a technical training camp the way it used to be, but they're going to their apartments or their homes, and then they're going back to the facility. Well, when the season starts, that's not going to happen. They're going to be interacting with a lot more people. They're going to be interacting with a lot more if they have a family, and those people are going to be interacting with people. And then there's the travel situation, which we didn't do at all because there were no preseason games. I knew that the NFL was going to do everything in their power to get to September 10th because that as soon as they talked about it, I'm like, we're not seeing a single preseason game this year. There's no reason for it. And we may not ever see much of them more anyway. We can talk about that if you want. But that now becomes the grand experiment, right? And they're talking about, what can and can't you do with jersey swaps and all that kind of stuff. There's just a whole different element that is going to go into play once they start playing games and going to different cities. There's talk of a bubble for the playoffs and the postseason, which is prudent. It would stink, if you win home field advantage and you can't use it like the Chiefs did. But I think that getting to September 10th was critical for the NFL, and now the hard part really begins.
Trey, you mentioned the jersey swap thing. Are you talking about like in the post game with guys, that are fans of each other?
Yeah.
That was considered something that they have to like take into consideration?
Oh, first of all, they banned them. The NFL banned them at first, and now they've just reinstated them with certain restrictions. But I mean, think about it. Like your sweat, and maybe let's say you're a wide receiver and you want to do a jersey swap with another wide receiver, right? Well, you haven't bumped up against him all game, and that's another interaction that they're trying to cut down on, I guess. But they are going to allow them to do it. I haven't read fully what the restrictions are, but there are restrictions along those lines.
Interesting. Okay. I guess the only reason I bring it up is I'm just curious, like if you, let's say it is two guys that have had contact during the game, well then what's even the point of trying to restrict their, like a handshake photo op in the post game?
Again, butt blocking and tackling, right? So, I mean, like you could literally, if you think about it, you could literally play an entire baseball game and purposely not touch another human being.
Yeah.
You can't go 1 second of one snap in a football game and that be the case.
Oh, absolutely. It's why this is the weirdest sport or the toughest sport for them to get this right with. So fingers crossed. What do you think, like you noticed us being New England fans, what do you think is the reasonable projection for the Pats this season?
It's an excellent question. You're welcome. Their entire linebacking core is going to change. Like Dante Hightower opting out was massive. It was massive. And you already lost two of your best linebackers in free agency to Detroit and Miami. So I believe that Bill Belichick is not only the greatest football coach of all time, but arguably the greatest coach in any sport of all time. And I think that his team will be prepared, and getting Cam Newton for like 7 cents is the most Belichick thing ever, right? Mm-hmm. And the amazing thing about it, not that this was a thought process, but just shows you that sometimes he thinks faster than everybody. When the latest cheating allegations, not cheating, let me rephrase that. When the videotaping thing took place this year and they lost some money and some draft picks, I think it was a 3rd round or 4th round pick. I can't remember which one it was. But if Cam Newton leaves in free agency after this year, they receive in return a compensatory either 3rd or 4th round pick. So even if he leaves, they get the pick back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's brilliant. I think Cam's going to do fine. I'm not sold on the receiving core. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why Tom wanted to leave, because he's like, look what you gave me to work with last year. I had Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown at one point, and who did I finish with? It's N'Keal Harry is going to have a big year for the Patriots. Going to have a big year.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but apparently, like, those guys the receiving core isn't being asked to wear any sort of, masks or COVID protection because they can't catch anything.
I was just waiting. You've been waiting for that joke, haven't you? You've been waiting for it.
We're honest Patriots fans. We talked before, even before they signed Cam Newton. The Red Sox stink, but that Patriots offense over the last 20 years since like the Brady era, borderline unwatchable. I mean,
think about last year, right? Just think about the playoff game that they lost to the Titans. Do you remember the score of that game?
I think they lost by,
I want to say 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but the pick six made it like 10 points, right?
It was 20-14 was the final score of that game. Okay, so what I'm telling you,
they're down 1.
Yeah,
they
were down. They were down 1 point.
Yeah,
20-13. Sorry.
Yeah.
20-13. Yeah, 20-13 was the final score because the Titans scored 14 points.
Yeah,
and if you're telling me that if the Titans offense scores 14 points, you should win that game. You should win that game. Absolutely. They had the meltdown on the 1st and goal from the 1-yard line, which ended up in a field goal. First time in Patriots history. First time in Patriots playoff history that they'd ever not scored a touchdown on 1st and goal in the Brady Belichick era. 1st and goal at the 1. But you had to say to yourself, if we can limit the Tennessee Titans to 14 points, hell yeah, we're going to win that game. And they didn't.
Nope.
Because the offense was so disjointed.
Oh, it's so bad. I mean, there were just games like we talked before. I remember vividly there's a regular season Cowboys game at Foxborough and like raining or shitty.
It was terrible.
And I was like, they're not going to get a first down today. Like they're just not. There's just nothing that shows me they're capable of moving the football. And it's just like, ugh. So I don't know. I mean, I'm excited about Cam. It's something new. It's different. Yeah. I mean, like I said, we're Patriots fans. It's been the same. Granted, it's been a very well run, very fun to watch offense, but it's been the same thing with Tom Brady for years. Curious to see how it goes. I don't, unlike most years, we always say it's like you can go into the season with a pretty good feeling that, okay, I think we're at a minimum going to go to the Super Bowl. That's not an unrealistic ceiling. You know what I mean?
Amazingly, as audacious and obnoxious as that sounds, it's correct.
It's not crazy.
It's correct.
It's scientifically proven to happen more often than you think. What are your kind of, I guess, predictions on the season as far as Super Bowl favorites, MVP, anything you're really leaning on as far as?
Well, it's interesting. I think the last. I'm not a big hot taker. The last three. Thank you. The last 3 MVPs, I think, were all under like 15-1 or over 15-1 to win. So it was all surprise. But I will say this: I don't think there's ever been a team more suited to repeat since the Patriots did it in 38 and 39 than the Chiefs this year.
Really?
Well, before opt-outs, they were going to return 22 of 24 starters. Now with the guard, Duvernay Tardif, and Damian Williams, the running back, opting out, it's 20 of 24. Yeah. But Damian Williams probably is going to be replaced by Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back first-round pick anyway. So let's say 21 out of 24. They've locked up Travis Kelce. They've locked up Patrick Mahomes. They locked up the defensive both defensive guys, Clark, who they got last year, and then Chris Harris they took care of. They paid everybody. And they are going into a season where nobody else has had any time to work with new players.
True.
I mean, if you have an established coach and an established quarterback, and you happen to have the best player in football as your starting quarterback, it's a huge advantage. I would be shocked if the Super Bowl this year isn't the Chiefs and the Saints for the same reasons. The Saints are a loaded team. They don't have a lot of turnover. They've had 3 horrible endings the last 3 years in the playoffs. And it's just been ridiculous. So I think that I would be stunned if I don't see those 2 teams in the Super Bowl, barring catastrophic injury, obviously.
No, of course. So even Baltimore hasn't made too many crazy changes this offseason.
No, but I am a believer that if they have to get through Kansas City, Kansas City will be like, hey man, run the football all you want. We need 5 minutes to score.
True.
I mean, everyone made a big deal, and we did too, especially, about look at the balance of the Ravens offense. 200 yards passing, 200 yards rushing. Isn't that great? It is, but at the end of the day, I don't think that 200 yards passing a game is a sustainable winning formula in the way the NFL has played this year.
Yeah.
And I think Lamar and Hollywood Brown have got to have a more consistent deep threat over the middle, deep threat to stretch out that offense a little bit.
Yeah. Well, another big, thing Kansas City's not leaned on, but definitely played to their advantage is Arrowhead at full capacity, rocking and rolling. How do you think that's? I mean, you probably know better than me. I'm still a little bit confused about how the fans work. So it seems like it's more of like a state by state thing. It's not
it is a state.
Right?
It's not. Yeah. It's not mandated by the NFL at all. It's a state by state situation. And people have said, well, that's unfair because some people have fans and some won't. And I'm like, okay, tell that to Kansas City, to your point, or Seattle. Yep. Where the fan base is so rabid.
They play with 12 players.
Yeah, they literally cause penalties on a higher rate than any other stadium. And for me, that's a detriment to both Seattle and Kansas City that they're having to work with because they won't have as many fans there. So
I agree. Do you think that's going to change throughout how fluid is that? Like how many are allowed?
It's very fluid. It's all state. Okay. It's all state and local ordinances. So it depends on Jerry Jones is going to try and get 20,000, 30,000 in there.
Of course he is.
I don't exactly.
And an indoor stadium in Texas. Why not?
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? Science. I don't know. So
okay,
yeah.
I was heavy on the Saints too. I'm glad to hear someone who actually knows what the hell they're talking about.
And they got Emmanuel Sanders. They literally have a second. They have a second wide receiver for the first time in the Michael Thomas era.
Hey, remember when the Patriots could have signed him or traded for him? They got Mohamed Sanu instead.
They traded a lot.
There's an investment.
No shit. That wasn't his best
stint.
Yes, that wasn't his best move.
All right, so I know we're coming up on time here. Soapy, why don't you go ahead and so we let Trey get out of here.
2 quick ones, Trey. What happens if a friend or family member asks you for fantasy football advice? Do you tell them to F off?
Literally, I just got a text about that. And I was answering.
Knew it.
So a friend of ours said, I have the first pick, McCaffrey, right? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's fair.
So yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't get tired of that?
Nah, I like talking football, so it's not a problem.
Follow-up question. Here's my lineup. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. All right. Okay. First of all, is it a PPR league?
Ours is a PPR league.
Then okay. 2 things.
McCaffrey. Tell me I'm trying to think.
Tell me you drafted your first 2 positions running backs. Tell me you drafted running backs your first 2 positions.
I think I was 6th overall, and I think 7th overall. I went Kamara, and on the end, I had Thomas and Kamara both available as a toss-up. I took Kamara, and then I woke up to news that he was holding out.
And they're going to get a deal.
I know. I saw that. So. And then on the turnaround, DeAndre Hopkins on the turnaround. Okay. He dropped
I guess
15th or something crazy.
Which is stupid because in that offense, he's going to feast. I would always say get running backs early because running backs, you need them. And that once they're gone, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. You know what I mean?
I think I went Tyreek Hill and let's see here, Derrick Henry.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch.
Thank you.
But Tyreek's the flash play though, right? Like you have to get the tutties from him because he's
like Deshaun Jackson was.
Yeah, he's never going to give you a ton of catches, but you need the tutties.
Yeah. The classic Randy Moss stat line: 3 catches, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns.
That's exactly right.
So my follow-up question. This is a ridiculous question that we've asked some other football folks, but I do want your opinion. A couple of my favorite plays, I want you to rank them in order of entertainment value from your standpoint. Okay. So a downed punt. So when you, not just a downed punt, but when the ball is tumbling and it's about to go into the end zone and then
dive in, save it.
Yeah. And then you save it. You like pin it back. You hit it back to the 1 or a long field goal, specifically like overtime.
Yeah. Game-winning field goal.
Yeah. Or an OT coin toss, everyone's favorite play.
OT coin toss is essentially last in any situation. Game winner is hard to beat. Look, I love the artistry of keeping the ball and playing out of the end zone, but if it's a game winner, it's a game winner. So, that's a different, like a game winner is
like
on a
Vinatieri
level.
snowball.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, the first kick to tie the game was way
crazy
better than the kick to win.
Good call.
That kick to tie that game was bleeping insane.
Yeah.
So, all right. So those are I'm going to leave you guys with a trivia question. See if you can answer it. You ready? Because you guys are Patriot fans. So you think you know the answer to this, but I think I got you. There's only one player in the history of the NFL who on his stat line has this line in his career: 1 catch for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Any idea?
That's his only stat?
His only
1 catch, 1 touchdown?
His only catch. 1 catch, 1
in the
touchdown
Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, it's not Mike Vrabel. Oh, wait. Not Mike Vrabel, right? Because he had 2.
Vrabel has 10. And two in the Super Bowls, but 10. Like, Vrabel has the greatest stat line of all time. In his career, he's 12 catches for 12 touchdowns, 2 of them in the Super Bowl. It's
very
ridiculous.
Efficient. Yeah. Was it like an O-lineman?
No, you're missing an easy one that people always guess.
Oh.
And it's accurate, but it's not right.
Was this Brady's first 3 or second 3?
It's not a Patriot. It's not a Patriot.
I thought you said it was a Patriot.
No.
Oh,
it's one player. One player. There's only one player in the history of the NFL that has that. His receiving line is 1 catch for a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Nick Foles?
Everyone guesses Nick Foles. It's not Nick Foles. Nick Foles has 2 touchdowns, believe it or not. Two catches. It's a guy named Percy Howard. Super Bowl 10, the Steelers against the Cowboys. He caught
I was at that game.
Sure you were. He caught the last play, the last touchdown for the Cowboys to make it 21-17. It was his only catch of his rookie year. The next year at training camp, he tore his ACL and never played again. Win a lot of bar bets with that one because everyone will say Nick Foles, and Nick Foles has 2 catches.
Son of a gun. I hate Nick Foles. All right, Trey. We're gonna let you go, man. Thank you again for hopping on with us. Before we let you go, where can everyone find you? You know, on TV, social media. What's the best place to keep in touch with you?
Just everywhere. Yeah, wherever you choose to consume me, I'll probably be there.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Trey Wingo, everybody. Thanks for coming on, man.